Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scot McKay.
Greetings, gentlemen, and welcome to yet another episode of the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. As always, I am your host, Scot McKay. You can find me at Scot McKay on X, on YouTube, just about any social media platform out there, except for Instagram, where I'm at Real Scot McKay. Join us on the Facebook group Mountaintop Summit, but only if you want to join a group of like-minded men who are headed in the same direction you are with women and with their life in general, which is, of course, an upward trajectory, right? And if you haven't been to our website lately, we made a few changes there. Those of you guys who like to listen on Pandora, we finally got the links changed there because Spotify is no longer doing their thing, right? So the website has caught up accordingly. And of course, you can still download my free book, Sticking Points Solved, get involved with the latest masterclasses, or even catch up on the ones that have happened in the past. All of that great material that will help you focus on an area of getting better with women that you have a specific need to focus on right now. That's what the masterclasses are all about. And if you haven't talked to me for free for 25 or 30 minutes yet, hey, get on my calendar and let's talk. You'll find me to be exactly who you expect me to be. Speaking of guys who are the real deal and who are exactly who you expect them to be, my longtime friend Tripp Kramer, aka Tripp Advice, is back again today for the show. And it's been a few years, hasn't it been, Tripp?
Yeah, I think I remember. I think it was either 18 or 19 where we did the last. So maybe 3 or 4 years ago, quite a bit.
Yeah, it was pre-COVID for sure. And of course, both of us have been busy on all kinds of things. One of the things you've been busy on is compiling an incredibly impressive 1 million YouTube subscribers, and you do great work there.
Yeah, thanks, man. That's 12 years, I think, in the making. Videos every week for 12 years. So
yeah, you're a YouTube machine, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we'll do is we'll link to Tripp Advice on YouTube in the show notes for sure. And of course, you're a podcaster like I am. I've been on your show a few times as well. And that's still going strong for you too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been doing that since now 2014, almost 800 episodes at this point. So that's still going strong.
That's pretty prolific. Right on, man. So the bottom line, gentlemen, is you have two guys who know what they're talking about right here before your very ears to listen to today. And we're going to talk about a subject that has somehow eluded this podcast. I mean, since we've started, I don't think we've ever talked about Halloween before at all. The topic, of course, is indeed Halloween.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Halloween is one of those holidays that if you're good with women, boy, are you in for a bonanza. And if you struggle with women, especially in social situations, it can be kind of intimidating because you start going to these costume parties and the women dress in ways they wouldn't normally dress. So that's probably a good place to start. And I'm going to go ahead and let you riff on that entire concept your way, Tripp. Go for it.
Yeah, totally. I mean, listen, Halloween is the time when women get to, feel just free and they get to dress in any way they want. And of course, it's an opportunity for them to, show off how they look. So they take that opportunity, as you can see when you're going out. One of the things too, you have to remember is that even though they are dressed like that, you don't want to ever comment on it. Okay. You don't want to comment on it. You don't want to compliment it because other guys are probably doing that. So during Halloween, you want to come in the opposite of what everyone else is doing because that's going to make you stick out. And a lot of guys are going to be pretty lame doing those same things. By the way, I want to interrupt myself and say I'm getting over a cold. So this is why I sound like this. So hopefully everyone can bear with me. But yeah,
It'll make you sound even more real, man.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wouldn't want to miss to do an episode with you, Scot, especially when Scot and I are in a group together of other coaches. And he's like, yeah, I want to talk about Halloween with someone. And I think I responded within 5 minutes because I'm like, man, I love talking about this. I don't talk about it enough. I don't think even I have an episode on my 800 episode podcast about it. But it is really such a great opportunity to meet women because you can get so much volume in. Like this is the time to get a lot of volume. So,
by the way, as an aside, and I'm going to let you continue, I think the gravelly voice kind of, it's good for you. It kind of has this gravitas to it.
Oh, nice.
You now sound like a grizzled veteran of this stuff. It gives kind of an Art Buchwald characteristic to your commentary on things, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing when it comes to attracting women, but it certainly gives you kind of a manly feel. I'm sort of liking the gravelly voice.
I'll take it.
Keep it.
I'll take it. I'm glad I'm attracting you, Scott. It's working.
Well, I'm at least trying to help you feel good about being on this show. Hopefully that's working.
Good. Yes, it is.
Even if you don't feel good physically, you feel good about being here.
Exactly.
So you left us at a Halloween party with a bunch of women who were dressed incredibly sexually attractively and were not allowed to talk about it. So what's a man to do, Tripp?
All right. Well, I want to start from the ground up. Okay.
With your eyes, right? From the high heels all the way up to the little kitty cat ears on the top of her head, right?
Yeah. I want to go back to a time when I was in college, and I remember my personality, if you know me on a personal level, I'm a goofy, funny, jokey kind of guy. And so for a few Halloweens, I remember that I would take the Halloween costume to the jokey side where you can dress up and kind of have like a funny type of costume versus like, I don't know, a serious costume, I would say. And so I remember a few different times where I did this and it completely backfired. And it really gave me such an important lesson on how to dress for Halloween. Okay, so we'll start with that tip. So I remember when I was visiting my friend's college, USC. And if you know USC, it's in Southern California, a lot of attractive women there. And I was with my buddy.
My goodness, their mascot is a condom.
Yeah, exactly. The Trojans.
How can you not have good-looking women at a college where your mascot is named after a condom?
Yeah.
Yeah, there may be a chicken and an egg there, but I digress.
So we're at this Halloween party, and there was a theme to it. And the theme was safety. Okay? So safety. And that was an interesting theme. It's like, okay, how can we dress safety? And so there was everything safety. There was people dressed up as cops, superheroes, firemen, things like that. All kind of cool stuff. Me and my buddy didn't want to do that. We wanted to be more funny.
As if women aren't attracted to men in uniform or anything.
Right, exactly.
There was an opportunity missed there for sure. I can't wait to hear this. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, we didn't dress in a uniform, not at all. Instead, we dressed as airbags. Okay, so
see, I was expecting you were going to dress as like orange cones or something.
Oh, that would have been better, actually.
Well, slightly. That's why I laughed out loud, because I was dreading having to hear that you guys had to endure being dressed like orange safety cones all night. But man, this is even worse. I mean, crash test dummies would have been better than airbags.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Because also, if you're a cone, they can at least tell you're a cone. But how do you dress as an airbag? Well, you basically dress in all white, and you dress like a fat person. You put a big pillow underneath your shirt. And I don't know, maybe we wrote airbag on there. And I just remember being on the dance floor as an airbag. And I'll never forget the moment. I was just like, when I would literally look at women cringe at me. And I was like, what the hell did I do? And so I learned my lesson on that day. But I didn't learn it all the way, because I remember a few years later, I would do the same thing. Just try to be funny and try to dress up. Nothing as funny as the airbag. But then I remember I would see some of my guy friends dress up in college, and they would be dressing as like pilots and maybe vampires and just stuff that was cool. And then finally it clicked with me. And maybe this is obvious to some of you guys. I don't know. It wasn't for me, So maybe some of you guys are like, yeah, duh. But maybe others are like, good point. Is that you just want to dress cool, Like you want to dress as someone who would be an actual fantasy for a woman, like a cop or a vampire or a pilot.
Well, here's a hint. That's what the women are doing. They do it instinctively.
Yes,
they dress
they do.
like sexy nurses and in little cat suits and all these things that make us fantasize over them, like hot for teacher outfits and stuff like that. They do this instinctively. They figured it out. We as men are the big dorks who can't seem to get it through our heads, right?
Well, I would assume that if they figured out how to dress as an airbag, it would work. But,
Yeah, I doubt it.
On the male side.
They wouldn't do it, Tripp. That's the bottom line, right?
That is the bottom line. Yeah, they wouldn't do it. Exactly. So,
well, at least you didn't dress as the back end of a two-man horse outfit. That's probably the least effective way to attract women.
That's true. You wouldn't even be there.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be there. I mean, we're not able to even see you, which is probably a good tip right there. If you're going to go to a party with women, they have to be able to see you and know who you are and be able to get to know you. You can't even be behind some anonymous Star Wars stormtrooper outfit even. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So bottom line is, you don't need to, I wouldn't get too clever. I would dress as, I mean, if you wanted to do something kind of outlandish that would get people, talking to you, like something really interesting where you actually had lots of makeup and it was crazy, that's one thing. But if you're not into that, and most guys aren't, dress as something very simple and that would be considered cool.
And sexy.
Okay. Yes.
And masculine.
Yes. Good point there, Scott. Masculine.
Thank you.
Airbags, not masculine, not feminine either.
Airbags aren't very manly because crashing your car into a utility pole isn't exactly manly or masculine in and of itself, right?
Yeah, inanimate objects are usually not that sexy also.
Right.
So, and that's what an airbag is, a big white fluff.
So let's talk about the women themselves.
Yes, let's do it.
That's one of my favorite subjects, and I know it's yours too. All right, so let's talk about the psychology of an attractive woman on Halloween. Tripp, is she letting her inner slut come out and play even though that's not really who she is? She can kind of play dress up and pretend for a brief moment. Or is it more likely, or at least equally likely, that this is kind of their inhibitions going away for one night, and this is a side of them they really want to come out and play because it represents something authentic?
I think that it is, it definitely is an opportunity for them to unleash that side of them that they can't normally unleash. And here's the thing, though, is that just because they might be unleashing that side with the way they dress, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how they're going to act, right? There's still going to be a lot of women who might be dressed in that sexy whatever outfit, but they're still going to be kind of shy. They're not going to be necessarily, completely out to play and loose as a goose. But still they're enjoying the fact that guys are looking at them and they get to, be that person or live this kind of fantasy that they've always wanted to live.
Those are my favorite women at the whole party.
Which ones? The ones that are dressed like that?
Yeah, the ones who are dressed like that and are still kind of shy and reserved and being their own personality, even though they're so out there with their costume sexually. Because, man, you're looking at them from a completely different and decidedly sexier perspective. And yet they're still themselves under there. And wow, is that ever intriguing and sexy as hell,
Yeah, totally.
That's why they're my favorite. When they're acting just slutty, regardless of whether that's their real personality or not, that doesn't intrigue me personally as much as when they're really kind of low-key conservative in their personality type, but they're wearing that outfit at the same time.
Also, Scott, I don't even care. Like, I don't even care what they're like or what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter to me on Halloween versus any other night, whether they're shy or not shy or they're coming out to play or not. I like Halloween because it makes it just 10 times easier to get the volume and get into conversation. So if you're a guy who's really shy and you want to use this as an opportunity to meet a lot of women, you have so many ins, it's insane because everyone's dressed up. So you don't have to just go up and say hi. You can just go up and you can comment on a costume. And I have a great tip. I wonder if you're going to like this one, Scott. I have a great tip for guys that they can do that works really well to get a lot of approaches in when they go out during Halloween, whether it's at a party or at a bar, whatever it is. And here it is. Okay. When you go up, you're going to comment on their costume, but you're going to get it wrong. Okay. But it's going to be so obviously wrong. So you're going to go up to them and you're going to comment. And instead of saying what every other guy is saying, which is like, oh, you must be Little Red Riding Hood, or, you must be Snow White, or whatever it is, you're just going to guess something totally different. Now, why do we do this? We do this because we want to get a reaction out of them, right? If you go up to them and you say, oh, you look like a Little Red Riding Hood, they're going to be like, yep, like not that interesting, right? Unless they think that you're somewhat physically attractive, then maybe that's going to help you. But if you're not their type, it's not going to do anything. So you need to get in there to spark some sort of emotion. And the best way to do that is by guessing completely wrong, even if it pisses them off. Good. We want some sort of emotion out of them. Sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes it's not. Maybe they're going to be like, oh, no, what are you talking about? Get away. That's fine. I'd rather take the risk, because you're not going to do anything offensive either, right? So I'm just thinking like off the top of my head, you might go up to a girl who's in Little Red Riding Hood uniform, and then you might comment and you might say, oh, wait a minute. Wait, are you that girl from The Handmaid's Tale? Okay. So,
well, look, if she has a sense of humor, she's going to burst out laughing.
100%. And if she's seen that, she's going to love it. And guess what? Even if she hasn't seen that, she's going to be like, no, what's Handmaid's Tale? And you're going to be like, what? It's like the best show ever. How have you not seen this show? And then you'll pull it up on your phone and you show her, look how now you're just totally engaged in conversation. And then you can laugh about it and joke about it and whatever. And then from there, move on. Okay. Not from her, but from that topic of conversation.
Hold on. Let me jump in here because there's a meta level tip there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's harken back to 5 minutes ago when we were talking about how stupid we as men can be when we're picking out a Halloween costume, trying to overthink it and be super creative to the detriment of our own sexual attractiveness. The Handmaid's Tale outfit is a primo example of the kind of Halloween costume no sexy woman is ever going to choose, even as a joke. It's never going to happen. Yeah. She's never going to think, oh, this will really throw all the guys off and make them wonder about me. No, they won't even do it. They instinctively know better. So, I mean, that's like a meta level tip right there. And that's probably what guys are thinking listening to this. Like, okay, there's no chance a woman's ever going to show up in a Handmaid's Tale outfit anyway, which makes this even funnier. That's why I laughed. Let's see. So when you apply that back to what we're talking about, it really drives the point home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And listen, that was a really good example. And I hope that any guys who do go out and see a woman in a Little Red Riding outfit does use that. And by the way, that was so clever. Don't worry about it. Like, you don't have to be as clever as that. Just pick something completely random that might look like it or might not. Also, I don't want this tip to prevent you from going and approaching. If you sit there and it's taking you longer than 15 seconds to come up with something, then just go up and approach, because I don't want you overthinking it. That's not the point. It's not the point is to be clever. It's just to get up there and start a conversation. And it's a nice way to do it on Halloween because you're making a joke, and off the bat, it's going to be jokey and funny, and it's going to spike emotion. And you can do that to literally every single girl at the party. So that's tip number one. Or I guess it's tip number two, really.
And that's excellent advice. And I want to add a couple things to it that I thought of while you were talking. First of all, one of the things I tell men is to get out of your own head and start being observant, looking around at what's going on whenever you're approaching a woman. There's no easier place to do that than a Halloween party, right? I mean, if you can look at a woman's costume and you're still at a loss for anything to say to her, all I have to say is look harder, okay? I'm going to add another way to approach the situation you just talked about that I think maybe is at least as effective, especially if you're good at reading the room, which every man should be socially, and you decide that her personality can handle it, okay? Women love fantasy. Women love role-playing, and girls just want to have fun, right? So if her costume lends itself to helping her get in character and play up that fantasy a little bit, I would say that inspiring that in her is at least as good as challenging her costume a bit as you described, because it'll help her kind of get into the mood. And it's also all about her. So, for example, I mean, I might just go up to a woman who's dressed like a kitty cat and go, meow, and just see what she says. You know, I've actually done that before. And the woman responded by pawing my chest up like a little kitty cat and went rawr back to me. Or if she's dressed like Little Red Riding Hood, I'd walk up to her and say, so what's your plan for staying away from all the big bad wolves tonight? Just to see what she says, just to get her into character and into that mood, because that's an opportunity to help a woman get into a place where women naturally like to go, simply because you're in a Halloween environment. So it's easier, right? And they're kind of fantasizing a little already anyway. So, that may be another way. It's not negging them like, hey, you're just like my bratty little sister, aren't you? When she's dressed like Goldilocks or something. But I think in a certain situation with a guy who has some confidence about him, that alternate approach could work wonders. It can be magical.
Yeah, role play is what we're doing, right? That's Halloween. And if you get a good line and it works, you're golden, right? Just a great way to do it.
And I think that leads to a conversation too. Listen to what she says in response, and then you're rolling. But either way, I just want to really load these guys up with ways to go about doing Halloween when women are around. So what's your second tip, Tripp? Go for it.
Cool. So, well, actually, this is the third. First was don't dress goofy. Okay. Don't dress like an airbag. Yeah.
Fair enough.
And number two, use that opener. Number three is really kind of similar to number two, but just an extension of it. Is just the volume. Okay. Halloween is more social than probably any other holiday. And that makes it a great excuse to be talking to so many people. And you want to be part of that crowd. So don't just stick with one girl for so long. Okay. Because you never know. Like, you might stick with one girl for so long, and 20 minutes in, you guys are having a ball because it's Halloween and we're social. And then she goes, oh, I have a boyfriend. Right. So now you just wasted 20 minutes.
Oh, man.
And
everybody in the audience just collectively groaned at that one because, man, we can all relate.
Yeah. 100%.
She's so into the fantasy, and so are you, that she forgot to mention, oh, yeah, back in the real world, I have a boyfriend.
Right. Exactly. Ugh. Now, if you do it right, then hopefully 20 minutes in, you guys have already been flirting enough where she's told you before that. But if you're more on the beginner front, that could absolutely happen.
Sure.
I would like to take Halloween as more quantity over quality. Okay. So what I mean is by interaction, not quality of woman, but interaction, the quality of the interaction. I would rather focus on quantity. I want more. I want to collect numbers. I want to talk to as many women as I can. I want to start conversations with as many women as I can. Why not? Because at the end of the night, if you collect anywhere between 10, 15, 20 numbers. I know that sounds insane, but it's very easy to do, especially on a night like Halloween.
You bet.
If you collect that many numbers, I guarantee that you'll convert at least 5 of those into a date.
Yeah.
Can you believe that? One night out and you can get 5 dates. Like, that is insane. And more quality than online dating, right? There's a difference.
Sure.
The quality of an online date, right, Scott, versus a date that you meet out and about. You've already had that connection. So you're not, it's almost like when you go on an online date. Nothing wrong with online dating. It's great. But I'm just saying, like, an online date is practically a blind date because you don't know anything about the person and you're about to see what this is like conversing with them for the very first time, where you've already done that. So an online date is almost like you're starting at -1, whereas like a date from someone you met in person, like at a Halloween party, is like starting at 1, right? It's like you're already past that initial phase of who they are. Except for the fact that maybe you've seen them in costume and they're going to look a little different.
Yeah, 100%. A couple of things there. First of all, because women are in costume and they look sexier, it's kind of going to be the same sort of advantage for a guy who takes the bull by the proverbial horns that he would get at, say, the beach or at the gym. Men tend to become wussier as a general rule and back down more easily from approaching women the sexier those women look. So if you're the guy who's making conversation with women at this party, there may be fewer of you guys competing for all those hotties than you think. That's the first thing. Second of all, to kind of shift gears a little bit, you were talking about quantity, right? As well as quality. I think we should have more dress-up days in general that are holidays. It's almost shameful of our culture to give us a paltry one day a year to dress up. And then that one holiday is also about evil and ugliness and other bad stuff. I mean, other cultures do this. India has like 5 or 6 holidays a year where they dress up. I mean, what's wrong with us? Why don't we like playing dress up and having a little bit of a fantasy, or God forbid, some fun? We should have these opportunities like quarterly, not annually, you know?
In the Jewish religion, there's a dress up holiday. It's called Purim. It's in the spring. And what it's all about, especially even in the more religious sector, it's all about dressing up and getting wasted. So that's what Jewish people do on Purim. But
so you get all dressed up and get verschnickered.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe not. Maybe that's not the time you go hit on girls. But I'm just saying. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of other cultures out there that do this.
Wonderful. I'm also going to add that there's more to Halloween than simply going to Halloween parties and talking to a bunch of women. If you really want to maximize ways you can do well with a woman on Halloween, let's say you're already dating a woman, you met her sometime before Halloween, and either you met her online, you've had coffee with her. Let me tell you something that's golden that I have direct experience with. Invite her over to your place on Halloween to help you hand out candy to the kids. Now, I'll tell you why this is golden. First of all, because there's this planned situation where you're going to have constant interruption, she's going to feel like, well, you know, it's not like I'm going into his lair and he's not going to do something untoward, or she can't trust the situation. It's got this built-in factor where you're going to be doing something that's social and inherently involves other people showing up. So if she has any kind of latent fear over coming to your place, which, you know, admittedly, if you're a guy who's good at making women feel safe and comfortable, you're going to have women come over to your place, because not only do they already feel safe and comfortable around you, they're already feeling a little attraction, and maybe they're not even really worried about something sexual happening. They might actually be looking forward to it. But I'll tell you, when the kids start knocking on the door and you and the girl are giving out candy to those kids, it's a wonderful time to show that you're interactive with children and that you're good with children as a guy. And, you know, the way to talk to children is very simple, gentlemen. Talk to them like normal adults without all the heavy stuff. That's all there is to it. And they respond well to that. So you comment on the kids' costumes. You interact with the woman about the kids' costumes. And the dynamic that happens before your very eyes is you start bonding with this woman. It's almost like you're playing house in a weird sort of way, right? So if she's a woman you really like and maybe even see as potential relationship material, the two of you are going to start seeing each other as a team at your home doing things that couples do. And she won't even really have seen it coming. And of course, you can make her laugh. And every time the door closes, you have a little bit of time between when the kids come and knock on your door the next time, assuming you're in a neighborhood where it's not going to be a constant barrage for 2 hours. Then, you know, you can flirt with her and maybe kiss her and, you know, sneak in something like that, so that when the next kid knocks on the door and you have to be all normal and, you know, straight-laced again, it'll kind of even be hornier and sexier. Women love that stuff. The other part of this strategy that is so amazingly powerful is kids generally stop knocking on the door around 8:30 or 9 o'clock, right? And then you're together with her, just the two of you. And you've had this experience together. And it's just amazing how likely it is for sex to happen. This is coming from personal experience, you know. But again, this is a different kind of perspective than that of, hey, I need to go out and meet a bunch of women and do a lot of approaching. This is if you have a woman you'd like to get closer to and Halloween just happens to be going on. You know what I mean?
Totally. I'll even add in a little tip to that night.
Go for it.
One thing you can do that I've done in the past, wasn't specifically in Halloween, but you could totally do it on Halloween, is just a good activity, a fun one to do, is make homemade cider, which is really easy to do. You just like look online, you get a recipe, just basically a bunch of fall seasonings and then apple cider, and then you boil it all together and strain it. So really easy, really fun, really delicious.
And the house smells great.
The house smells great. And if you guys like to drink alcohol, you can even add whiskey to it. And if you don't drink alcohol, you don't have to. So really, you can't lose either way. And it makes it more fun and something just to do together, you know, while you guys are, you know, getting ready for the trick-or-treaters and all that.
Now, that's an underrated tip because women are indeed multisensory when it comes to sexual attraction. And a lot of guys, I don't know, Tripp, maybe we watch too much porn or what have you, but it's a lot more than just what you see and what you hear with women. You know, the smells, the tastes, the touches, all of that contributes to women being sexually turned on. Great tip. Great tip. Well, I'll tell you, we're running out of time. But I think we've really empowered these guys with some heavy Halloween artillery. I don't know if that's the right context to put it all in, but certainly some great ways to approach Halloween and the women who are all dressed up. And if you have a woman in your life, you got some great tips on how to handle that too. It's been a great show and a lot of fun too, Tripp. And what I want to do right now is direct these guys to your podcast, which, like I said, I've been a guest on. And you've had a lot of other guests on as well and a whole lot of episodes. So if you're listening to this podcast, you'll most likely like Tripp's too. And that show is called How to Talk to Girls. And it's been on for ages, has lots of listeners. You can find it on Apple Podcasts for sure, as well as Pandora and Google Play. And Tripp, you have anything else to say about your podcast that I missed out on there?
No, I mean, listen, I'm putting out episodes twice a week at this point. And always uncovering just new tips, new techniques, new mindsets to help guys be able to attract more women, have a better dating life, and also just be a better man in general. So that's it. Check it out. How to Talk to Girls anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, man. And if you go to mountaintoppodcast.com/Tripp, guys, with 2 P's, TRIPP, then what's going to happen is you will be teleported automatically to the Apple Podcast page for that particular podcast, How to Talk to Girls. Also, in the show notes, I got to link you to Tripp Kramer's wonderful YouTube page, which is called, appropriately enough, Tripp Advice, and you'll be able to join 1 million other people, most of whom are men, I'm sure, checking in with what Tripp's got going on video, which is always good stuff. Tripp, man, great to reconnect. Great to have you back on the show. And you know what? I think we crushed this topic, and that's largely because of you. Thanks for dropping some wisdom on these guys.
Yeah, man. Always a pleasure to be on your podcast. Can't wait to do it again. Thanks for giving the opportunity.
Yeah, man.
And I can't wait, to just keep helping out the guys with you.
You betcha. And gentlemen, like I said at the outset, if you've not been to mountaintoppodcast.com lately, check out our sponsors, Jocko Willink's company, Origin in Maine. Those guys aren't only cranking out the best boots, best jeans, and most powerful supplements that really work on planet Earth. They've now expanded out into hunting and fishing, all these manly pursuits. You will be outfitted for said manly pursuits better than you've ever imagined you could be. It all starts with a trip to Origin in Maine, which you can go to by clicking the link on mountaintoppodcast.com that's labeled Origin, or going to mountaintoppodcast.com/Origin. When you go there, or when you visit my friends at heroessoap.com or thekeyport.com, please use the coupon code MOUNTAIN10 to get an extra 10% off. And of course, gentlemen, I'm here to talk to you about where you are right now, where you want to be in your relationships with women. Talk to me by clicking the link in the upper right-hand corner in the form of a red rectangular button on mountaintoppodcast.com. You'll get on my calendar, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. And I'm also looking forward to talking to you on the next episode of the Mountaintop Podcast. Until then, this is Scot McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.